Yesterday, Gus Johnson did a live interview with Twitch streamer PayMoneyWubby, where he talked about his experience going through an ectopic pregnancy with his ex-girlfriend and content creator Sabrina 3 years ago. This was in response to a video that was made by Sabrina months ago detailing her experience with the diagnosis and how her relationships and career played a role in this near-death experience. Many people are aware of how the situation played out online, but if you're not aware, I would start by watching Sabrina's original video, which I will link below. The hour-long interview took place 3 nights ago, and it was filled with Gus victimizing himself, minimizing his abuse towards Sabrina, and just telling blatant lies.
Well, if it isn't Gus the Abuser Johnson in the flesh.
Oh my goodness, not the intro I was expecting.
As someone who is a close friend of Sabrina's and many people who had a friendship with Gus in the past, I felt the need to address this interview so more people could hear from someone who has real-life insight in this situation and knows more than the actual public does. I was given permission by Sabrina to talk about this, but the decision to make the video was my own. Before I begin talking about the stream, I want to go over what the public knows about how Gus treated Sabrina in their relationship, which I can confirm as a friend of Sabrina who has not only shown me proof of many of these things, but has also told me privately in the past. When Sabrina was on a medical call and refused to let Gus intervene to talk to the doctor, he physically pulled her hair to grab the phone. Gus downplayed Sabrina's profuse bleeding by saying that it was only gas from the meal she ate, and then refused to drive her to the hospital when it was absolutely unsafe for her to drive herself. Gus ignored Sabrina's request to meet her at the hospital when she almost died from her diagnosis, and instead went out with friends to get drinks without telling those friends that Sabrina needed Gus's support at the time.
I called my boyfriend and I told him something's wrong. I'm going to the hospital again. I don't feel well. Something is wrong. He said, okay, well, I have work to do and it involves other people, and then we're gonna go out and get dinner and drinks with them.
Gus also told Sabrina that someone else would have left her by now when they were together during this time.
And then he would sometimes tell me things like, you know, someone else would have left you by now, right?
He continually downplayed her trauma when she was suffering from PTSD after the fact and refused to go to any sort of couples therapy or personal therapy to work on Sabrina's trauma. Much later, he finally agreed to go to an unlicensed couples dating coach when he felt like it was beneficial for his own gain, and the sessions were not related to Sabrina's trauma from the diagnosis. Gus would also often yell at Sabrina when he was angry, and during the interview, these events and this behavior would often be referred to by Gus as saying and doing some dumb stuff.
I apologize for just the dumb stuff that I said and I did during some of that time. And I certainly did some dumb stuff. And I think that sometimes I just said some stupid stuff. And sometimes I said some stupid, flippant, short things. I shared apologies for the stupid stuff that I said and did.
The reason I want to make this video is not to make private information public. It is not to drag out drama, as Gus and Wubby will refer to it.
They're getting into my main issue with this whole drama. If it's a relationship drama, keep it private. One of the biggest hubs where this drama went down, in fact, I would argue her video was the catalyst that started the Twitter drama, which is, in my opinion, the biggest portion of this drama.
I hate drama. I don't like doing that.
It is not to make money or to get views. I waited till now to talk about this on my channel because I am seeing one of my good friends harassed endlessly online because of this interview and behavior that has come from creators like PayMoneyWubby in the past. I know he's going to watch this video on his stream, he's going to try to tear it apart, and then he's going to invite me on his show so he can milk someone's trauma for views and entertainment for his audience.
I'm also being very polite to this girl. I want her to come on stream. Tell this girl to reach out to my mod. I want her to come on stream. Okay, I'm not even gonna go through this anymore. I see people in chat being fucking retards. Get on call with me. You get on call with me. Get on call with me. Get Gus on a call, bro. Okay. Hey Gus, do you want to come on a call and publicly share your side of the story, which you've never done up until this point? We've had conversations about trying to get you on stream to talk about it, and it gets shut down right then and there because we're like, he's never gonna come on and share it. Like, why would he? Right?
Yeah.
But here you are. Bring Sabrina on. See, here's the thing. Sabrina would never come on. I don't think she would in a million years.
Unlike Wubby, I am good friends with people who are deeply involved in this story. I know the truth and the experience behind Sabrina and other people who have been involved with Gus in the past, and I am here to protect them and not make content. I don't spend hours talking about the abuse of someone that I don't know. I don't speculate who is lying and who is telling the truth and pretend that I'm not picking sides.
There's two sides to the story here. I think I can say a lot without taking a side. I'm going to take a side here in a minute.
I've seen what this trauma and abuse does to someone close to me, and I have seen the proof behind it. This is not drama, this is not up for debate, and what I say about this situation does not go beyond this video. I will not come on your show, and I will not use my friend's life as entertainment. I don't find this entertaining at all. If you do not know these people, you should not be speculating what is going on in their very real lives. Now with that, let's talk about the interview. The stream begins with Wubby strongly defending Gus from some of his fans who attempted to defend Sabrina. For over 2 hours, he went over Sabrina's original video again, which he has already done about 2 or 3 times on his live stream in the past, and discredited her trauma and criticized her for being upset that Gus wasn't there for her during her pregnancy.
So I'm not gonna sit here and say, fuck Gus, he deserves to be canceled, you idiots. You fucking morons. No, I don't.
So
I actually don't think
it's fair to have that conversation again?
Here's the thing, right? I'm all my body, my choice, but the reality of a child is it does affect more than the woman, right?
After these 2 hours, Gus came onto Wubby's stream after donating to him and offering to jump on a call to be interviewed.
What? Gus can call in? No, Gus. No, wait, what? That's not the real Gus Johnson. Gus Johnson, 1,000 bits, I can call in. No, he can't. That's not him.
It's clear that Gus was only comfortable doing this without a camera on after 2 hours of Wubby discrediting Sabrina's story and questioning the validity of her trauma. Before Gus enters the call, he sends Wubby a message that he doesn't want him to read out loud. We don't know what this message was, but Wubby accidentally tells his stream that Gus sent this message without knowing that he didn't want it to be read out loud, and it leads to this reaction.
Whoa. Okay. Can I read this, Gus? I'll just ask him. Gus said, please don't read it. I'd prefer to call. I'll talk about it. Okay. I'm going to read this privately, and then I'm going to get on a call with him first. Give me 1 second. Oh, it says, I'm so stupid. Gus, I'm so sorry if you're still watching. The third line in, please don't read this. Gus, I'm so sorry. I didn't read it. Let me move this off my monitor just in case. All right, let me read this real quick. I read it all.
For context, the extent of Wubby's association with Gus was his appearance on his podcast and a video he did on Gus's channel the same day. Besides that, Wubby does not keep in contact with Gus, Sabrina, or anyone else associated with the situation and is purely a third party with no extra information. Wubby has capitalized on Sabrina's experience a multitude of times on his stream, cultivating an audience that is aggressively against Sabrina's side to her story. Gus joins the call and Wubby greets him as Gus the Abuser Johnson.
Well, if it isn't Gus the Abuser Johnson in the flesh.
Oh my goodness, not the intro I was expecting.
Wubby uses this to downplay the idea that Gus could possibly be an abuser, and his chat echoes that same sentiment.
You've been a bit of a conversation piece on the stream for a few months now. I can't seem to shake it. It always comes back. I guess I have the hottest take on the internet about this, so I get a lot of heat.
He then makes the joke that he can't seem to shake Gus Johnson from his stream, even though he continually stokes the conversation around Sabrina's pregnancy, and has even replied to her tweets defending Gus's abuse, but deleting the tweets when he realized that he had no evidence to support these claims. The repeating line that Wubby tends to throw out there throughout the stream is that he does not want to pick sides.
There's 2 sides to the story here.
It's important to me to get both sides of the story. I like to look at things.
We agree. And I'm going to say this, Gus. I'm going to be fair to both sides. I want this to be very clear. I'm not bringing Gus on to suck his dick. I think that that would be unfair to Sabrina. Let Gus say his side of the story and then form an opinion once we know all sides. You know, don't know what to... I'm one of those people, right? I'm hearing 2 sides and I want to hear more. I think that him coming on was brave. I think that I can say that. And I think I can say a lot without taking a side. I'm going to take a side here in a minute, but before I do, just to be fair, I think that me listening to him speak there is the same as me watching Sabrina's video. I think a lot of poop was thrown on both sides. Get this, guys. Relationships are really fucking complicated and super nuanced, and there's 2 sides. Whatever side you fall on, it's unfortunate sides are being decided here, but I'm going to take a side here in a minute.
I want you to keep this in mind as you watch his behavior throughout the stream. Gus makes the claim that Sabrina is only speaking out about her experience for the purpose of smearing him and his career.
Really nothing prepares you for a situation like this where you suddenly have to defend to millions of people your reputation, your intentions, when one person right after a breakup really just smears you like this.
Besides the fact that Sabrina doesn't use Gus's name throughout her original video, and her relationship with him was only a small but necessary part of the video, she had nothing to gain by speaking out about the horrible way that he treated her throughout this relationship. Through all of this, Sabrina has not gained subscribers and has been harassed endlessly for speaking out about her own experience, so it wouldn't make sense for her to lie and bash Gus just to hurt his career, when everyone knows how these YouTube cancellations end. The canceled creator remains financially comfortable while the victim is bullied by the creator's remaining fans until they leave the internet. If Sabrina was blatantly lying about Gus and her statements were inflammatory and aimed to mischaracterize him, why would he release 2 apologies validating Sabrina's feelings only to come back 6 months later and act like he has been misunderstood the whole time? Skeptics of Sabrina would ask why she waited so long to talk about her abusive relationship when she worked closely and was living with Gus and didn't want to speak out about someone who was still so involved in her life at the time. Yet when Gus waits 6 months to suddenly go against Sabrina's words for seemingly no other reason than to save his sad career, Wubby and his fans will accept it and praise him for being brave.
I think you said it well, and I think that you even coming on here in light of, or with all the shit storm that comes anytime you make any sort of appearance, I think it was really brave. I think that him coming on was brave. I hope you guys liked the content. Thank you, Gus, for coming on and being brave. If you guys like Gus's content, go check him out. If you don't, leave him the fuck alone.
Gus pivots away from this topic to talk about how bad the past 6 months have been for him and how badly he wants to move on, despite joining a stream filled with people who have been watching Wubby discredit Sabrina aggressively for months, while in chat calling her a liar, dramatic, emotional, and claiming that she is only doing this for popularity.
You know, this has been something that I've had to deal with every day for the last half of a year, and it's dominated a lot of my life. So I just wanted to kind of come in here and just talk a bit about some of it. So
You cannot continually say that you don't want to discredit Sabrina and then go on to not only discredit exactly what she said, but tell everyone that this has dominated your life for the past 6 months.
I do not want to negate or discredit any of the legitimate trauma that she had to go through. I can't imagine being in her position. The situation was stressful for both of us. I'm not trying to undermine her. It appeared like she was having a panic attack. I really don't want to say that to discredit anything that she was going to. I just really, like, especially, I just want to interject again. I am not trying to discredit her one single bit. I just really feel the need to defend myself. Again, I was not trying to discredit any of her trauma regarding this medical situation. And again, I am not saying that to try to discredit her situation and what she went through. I just want people to know that, like, I am not trying to discredit anybody or start any problems with people. I hate drama. I don't like doing that.
Gus consistently calls his actions foolish and stupid, but rarely goes into detail as to what he is even being defamed for. Gus Johnson attempted to force Sabrina into an abortion to protect his career, and then threatened to end the relationship if she didn't go through it, even though she has said in the past that she was always planning on getting the abortion, but was hesitant when an alarming medical procedure was involved.
You know, most people are really kind and supportive since that video came out, but the people who are not are using that as a way to try to invalidate me after that thing came out. Just like, oh, well, she changed her mind after she promised she would get an abortion. Of course he should leave her. It's like, I never changed my mind. I was always going to do it. I was just scared of being pressured into it, but I was always going to do it. Like, if Planned Parenthood didn't see an empty uterus, I would have done it right then and there, but they didn't let me.
Even through this terrifying experience that most of us will never be able to relate to, she still felt threatened and pressured by Gus to go through a procedure on her own body.
So it was really scary to be receiving all this conflicting pressure from medical staff and your body to not do it, and then being pressured by your partner to do it. It felt like I didn't even have a choice. It really felt like I wasn't even allowed to consider what would happen if I didn't. And I'm reiterating over and over, I mean, look at my appointments. This was always what I was going to do. I was constantly taking the steps to end the pregnancy. But it's really scary when somebody is forcing you to do it.
That is manipulative, and it is abusive behavior.
It really worried me right away that Sabrina began to express a change of her mind in regards to what we would do with the kid. And, you know, she was kind of in between jobs and stuff at the time, and she just kind of fully changed her mind on that.
Gus repeatedly says that he was intimately involved in the situation, but at the same time repeatedly distances himself from Sabrina, saying that he couldn't imagine what she was going through.
I was so intimately involved in the being around the trauma at the time, and I know the hurt that she was going through, and this was just so absolutely personal. I can't imagine being in her position. You know, I was very intimately close to her and this situation, but I can't imagine being in her position.
Gus continually echoes the sentiment that he has likely seen from the likes of Wubby and his viewers, that this whole situation should have just been kept private.
I thought that it had been dealt with within the context of a relationship privately. You know, maybe it's more the Midwest in me, but I'm accustomed to dealing with problems personally and privately between the person that is involved and the respective friends and families. And I just want to say, like, I'm really doing the best here. A situation that I felt had been properly handled and apologized for and dealt with in a private fashion.
Even after weeks of the conversation being quiet and seemingly over with, Gus chose to stoke the fire again and join an hour-long interview with someone who has very strong and aggressive feelings towards Sabrina. It is disgusting that Gus is pretending he respects Sabrina's experience and feels for her pain, yet publicly discredits her with Wubby, who has spent hours on his live stream tearing apart Sabrina's story because he knows that his friends will be more engaged with this hateful behavior. Gus will be very specific about the things he went through when he wants sympathy, and will talk in detail about what he feels and what he's gone through, even lying about things that Sabrina said or did in order to gain more sympathy. But when he has the opportunity to be open and honest about what he did, he refuses to be specific because he knows he can't get away with the horrific things he said or did to Sabrina, whether they have already been made public or still kept private from his audience. Throughout her video, Sabrina specified that the few details she included in her story were necessary to talk about her experience, and the video was not about everything Gus did during their relationship. You cannot say you want to be held accountable until you actually say what you did. Gus then compares Sabrina's PTSD symptoms to anxiety.
It was not uncommon for many of the days a week to have some semblance of an episode with Sabrina occurring. A lot of the times it would manifest in it appeared like she was having a panic attack. I really don't want to say that to discredit anything that she was going to. 95% of the time, you know, she would be having trouble communicating and would be hyperventilating.
Instead of addressing the cause of her symptoms, some of which she still deals with to this day, he tries to center the conversation around her mental state.
Sometimes I would get frantic phone calls while she was driving and afraid that she might pass out, or she would be waking me up in the middle of the night and insisting that, you know, we should go to the emergency room or the urgent care, and that it was really, you know, she'd always say, it's different this time. It's different this time.
Was this after the surgery?
This was after the surgery, and it continued for many months.
Wubby proves himself to be a lousy interviewer, giving questions to Gus that feel more like a PR spot than a conversation about his girlfriend's life-threatening diagnosis.
Anyway, that was a bit of a ramble there.
No, I really appreciate you feeling, you know, comfortable enough to open up on stream and let us know. I think that my audience watching, I think at the very least they wanted to hear what you had to say, and they wanted to hear your side of it. And I know that at times you were concerned about stepping on the wrong toes, but I think everybody here right now wants to hear what you had to say. So I appreciate it, really.
Gus then talks about how he had to deal with all of Sabrina's problems. He continually uses language that paints her as a burden to his life and calls her incessant.
For a very long time afterwards, I was the only person in her life who was ever around to deal with any of these emergency situations that occurred, and it was sometimes many times a week. She'd want to be going to the hospital, you know, she'd call me to come and take her to the hospital and stuff like that. It was pretty incessant for a while, and it was so scary and confusing. I honestly, I absolutely tried my best.
If Wubby's interview skills and all of this don't discredit him as a good interviewer for this situation enough, he begins to eat chicken McNuggets for several minutes while Gus details Sabrina's traumatic experience.
I do not want to negate or discredit any of the legitimate trauma that she had to go through. I can't imagine being in her position. You know, I was very intimately close to her and this situation, but I can't imagine being in her position. It had to be extraordinarily difficult. And
Yeah, that's why
I don't want at all. I don't want to create any hatred or disdain towards any individual.
And on top of that, we get to hear his loud ass chewing while even his chat understands that this is not a good look.
Like actually being, in the same city as each other for like, was trying to deliver that on time and everything.
Gus said that he had no idea that Sabrina needed his help at the hospital the day he ignored her text to go get drinks with his friends.
I noticed that in from what I've seen online as well, that she even mentions you were doing something for work, but I've realized the more this gets brought up, the meme of he went out for drinks instead of and nearly killed me is what I've been seeing. We responded to a video today of someone saying that you were nearly responsible for her death, which I'm seeing perpetuated. And I'm assuming that's something how do you feel about that?
I mean, like I said, I only wanted the best for her the entire time. I had no idea. Neither of us had any idea how serious the situation was. Going into this entire medical situation, I had never, I think there might have been maybe one time in my adult life at that point that I had been to the doctors myself.
Even though Sabrina detailed in her video that he had full knowledge of this and he already knew about the existing symptoms that she was experiencing before she had to go to the hospital and nearly died. Gus acts as if the public came up with this theory that he stonewalled the pregnancy to discredit them, even though these people were just referring to the fact that this was directly said in Sabrina's video.
One thing that kept getting brought up tonight, and that I've seen brought up quite a bit, is the pressure that we really only know the side that she put out. But there was a lot of implied pressure to the point where a lot of people called abuse of the abortion thing. A lot of people said they're taking what she said and they're expanding on it, that like you weren't open to conversation, there was stonewalling. Do you want to elaborate on that at all? Is that how it went? Do you view things differently? Is there more that we could know about that situation that you think would help clarify? Or was it as accurate as she explained?
I mean, I totally understand you asking. I can't speak too much to the minutia of conversations that I had, 4 years ago, but
and I think I can say a lot without taking a side.
I didn't say that we shouldn't talk about it, but at the same time, I recognized that some of the language that I was using was not the most conducive to a very team-oriented approach of like, what do we do here? I was just really afraid what to do, and we just weren't ready.
Now I want to talk about what made me make this video in the first place, and that was not the discrediting, undermining, and self-victimization of Gus, but his blatant lies and attacks on Sabrina's character. Gus continually makes it a point that he went to a couples therapist with Sabrina and said so in his apology, but has changed the terminology he uses for the specialist multiple times since the story came up.
We sought couples therapy together and individual therapy, and this was discussed at length.
After this incorrect claim from Gus in his apology, Sabrina pointed out that they met with a specific unlicensed couples dating coach from TikTok that Gus finally agreed to meet with. This was also shown to be disconnected from the ectopic pregnancy and had nothing to do with how Sabrina was treated during this time.
After I put out my apology video, 24 hours went by, and she tweeted out, like, never been to a day of couples therapy in my life. And I totally understand the validity in the semantics of, therapy versus counseling. Again, this is another area I was not very intimately involved in and familiar with. So if it was a misclassification error, like I totally understand that, but I think it's a little bit more of a binary approach to it to just say, I've never been to a day of this in my life.
I really want to exaggerate that even if they had met regularly with a licensed couples therapist, this does not excuse the behavior that Gus inhibited and that he admitted to in his apology and even during this interview. But Gus continually tries to make it a point that these specific appointments were something that Sabrina wanted, which is not true and does not hold weight in the conversation surrounding his abusive actions towards Sabrina, public or private.
Here, I just feel like I need to defend myself. Here, there were a lot of digs at my character and my decisions, and I said, I just really feel the need to defend myself. Again, I was not trying to discredit any of her trauma regarding this medical situation, but I was like, hey, we did do these things, and this was a person that she had chosen and she had brought forward to us.
Because I want to point out again that Sabrina has only spoken out about the behavior Gus inhibited during her pregnancy in order to tell her story. People tend to forget that they are not connected to the real lives of these people and have no idea what occurred in their relationship outside of this story that Sabrina told in her video. One of the biggest parts of this stream was a story that Gus told about Sabrina asking him to get back together after their initial breakup. The intention behind this story and the way that Wubby and his audience reacted is disgusting.
And it was pretty pretty shortly after we did privately break up, that I was watching the dog one weekend, and she came back to get some stuff from my house and to get the dog. And she surprised me because she came back in and she had brought me some gifts and said that she wanted to get back together with me, that she was sorry that it didn't work out and she didn't want to give up, and she said she wanted to come back into my life. And I just looked at all the effort that we had put in the last year, and I just thought that we had really given it as much of a try as we possibly could. And I just said, I'm sorry, like I'm not there right now. I don't think it's a good idea. And this was before I put out the public statement at all on Twitter in the few days after, or in the, since after we broke up. And I was texting her that morning saying, like, I want you to weigh in on what we have to say. I don't want to put out anything without checking in with you. I understand that we're both public individuals, and I just don't want anybody's interpretations of us to fall on the other side. Like, let's work on this statement together. She came back in and she said that evening, and she wanted to get back together. I said I wasn't ready to do that. And she screamed at me and said, you can put out whatever you want, but don't say it was mutual. That's a lie. And she slammed the door and left my house.
Whoa.
And then really shortly afterwards, this video came out that talked about the worst time in both of our lives. And I just wasn't expecting it. And it left me so sad because she had to go through legitimate trauma. And I just do not, for 1 second, I do not want to undermine that.
If everything Gus said in this story was true, he's telling it because he believes that a partner returning to a relationship that they rely on and have been a part of for years immediately discredits any abusive behavior from the other partner. This belief isn't only held by Gus, but by Wubby and his audience too. As a friend of Sabrina and someone who has talked with her closely about this story, she can confirm that her behavior and the response to Gus in this story is completely false. She did not scream at Gus, and she did not slam the door as she left his house, as she couldn't because her hands were full with her belongings and her dog. Everyone who is friends with Sabrina knows that she doesn't respond to situations like this with open and aggressive behavior, especially to a person who has exhibited the same behavior towards her in private. Even through their relationship and after his initial apologies, Gus never referred to any acts of aggression on Sabrina's behalf until half an hour into the specific stream where he knew he would get a reaction out of it. Gus lies about Sabrina retweeting tweets that made him look bad, and Wubby repeats this later in the stream when this did not happen at all.
The remainder of the day, retweeting and liking people's tweets that, you know what happens when someone does that, right? You retweet someone, it sends it to your followers, and you like something, it shows it to your followers as well. Of people not only name dropping him, but adding him, going through and giving a very, very skewed version of events that she was just sitting there retweeting.
She took to Twitter the same day that the video came out, and she was liking tweets and retweeting things from random users that I just feel like really unfairly mischaracterized me.
Gus does get upset that Sabrina liked tweets that made him look bad, but they all echoed ideas that she already confirmed in her video. These weren't news statements that she was co-signing, but support that she was receiving for a story that was hard for her to tell. Gus also never specifically states what Sabrina liked or retweeted and how it made him look bad. It was just another vague shot that he took at her to make her seem emotional and illogical.
But through poor decisions, unclear word choice, retweeting the wrong things, stoking the flame, the focus has gone away from your healing and it's been shifted to cancel this man, take his career, ruin his life. I just think it's so not the play.
He also makes the bizarre claim that Sabrina created memes about him.
It was beyond stuff like that too. She took to creating memes about me and the situation and continued to post about this. And
I don't know exactly what he's talking about here because, again, he doesn't specify, but I assume that he is talking about the one picture of a Pokemon card that Sabrina put on her story after Gus's apology, which referenced how he chose to stream himself opening Pokemon cards on Twitch when she needed his help at the hospital, but he refused. For someone who works professionally in comedy, I don't know what his idea of a meme is. Gus explains that Sabrina tried to cut off connections and friendships with him and aggressively pressured his friends to stop talking to him.
Unfortunately, it didn't just stop from a public front. She took to a lot of my friends and people that I do business with that aren't publicly personalities as well, and tried to get them to stop working with me. Tried to cut off connections. And I know this because in the last half of a year, I've had a number of these people come to me personally and just say that she made them feel extraordinarily uncomfortable by the kind of conversations that she had with them following this video. It was so embarrassing. I felt so embarrassed for myself and for my friends.
As someone who is friends with Sabrina and knows her friends who used to be friends with Gus, I can confirm that this is a blatant lie. If Sabrina was going around to Gus's friends and pressuring them to cut him off, I would hear about it and I would experience it as well. It did not take any pressuring from Sabrina or anyone else for the creators that you know to stop associating, communicating, and working with Gus Johnson. People continually seem to forget that these are real people with real lives and they know more than just the general public. You do not know these people, you do not see them when there's not a camera pointed at them, so you cannot make a judgment over what goes on behind the scenes, especially in a situation like this. The fact that people defending Gus can make assumptions about Sabrina's character and their relationship even before Gus tried to defame her is disgusting. The statements made about Gus and the relationships that he lost as a result of his actions were very explicitly stated. Even Wubby is too disconnected from the actual friendships and connections that Gus and Sabrina had to be so aggressively against Sabrina's side of the story. He only stepped back into the light with Gus when he knew that it would be beneficial to his career, and he still does not interact with Gus off camera or know anything about his past relationship. Sabrina did not and would never cross the boundary of telling someone who they can and can't be friends with, even when it's someone who has consistently hurt her and continues to lie about her to thousands of people. If Gus is so confident that he has friends who were pressured by Sabrina to leave him and they're still at his side, I'd love for him to name those people because I know they don't exist. The people who still work with Gus and support him publicly have not communicated with Sabrina about their friendship with Gus, and Sabrina has not reached out to them either. If everything I'm saying is false, these people can step forward and easily prove it. Gus tries to shift the blame to Sabrina by stating that there is a contradiction in her saying that she didn't make the video about him, but we know that she only ended up speaking more about him because he blatantly lied and deflected her claims in his initial apology.
And an hour or so after that, she tweeted out that she was not going to continue talking about this, and that she never even named me, and it was only to share her story. And I mean, I don't know. I think you could pretty clearly see a contradiction in intention between those two things within the span of a day or a few hours here.
Gus tweeted that after he canceled his tour, Sabrina tweeted this as an attack towards him.
I announced on Instagram that I had to cancel the tour. And then within about an hour of that, she tweeted out, "That's showbiz, baby," with an exclamation point on there. And I just...
Not only does this and so many of Gus's complaints boil down to, "Oh man, she was being so mean to me," but the tweet had nothing to do with the tour. It's Twitter. People always tweet random shit. I know for a fact, and have known before this instance, that Sabrina filters out her social media in order to avoid Gus and anything involving this situation so she can move on. She posts lines and phrases from whatever she's watching at the moment constantly on Twitter, and it's ridiculous to monitor what she's doing and assume that everything is about you, even if it is extremely vague. After Gus took a break from YouTube, his first video back was a sketch about a kid who was being overly dramatic about a medical condition and needed an ice pack. It came off as extremely tone deaf and as if it was a direct shot at Sabrina and her pregnancy, but this is speculative and we obviously can't prove that he was trying to attack her.
I'm just glad it happened to someone stronger like me though, but it still sucks. Honestly, thank you for asking, Katie. And no, to answer your question, I'm not okay. Hey Mom, I got hurt real bad in gym class today. No, don't come get me. I just wanted you to know. Is there anybody else there right now that I could tell about my injury? No, don't tell Dad. I want to do it. Do you think this is gonna make the morning announcements tomorrow? I just think people should be made aware. Oh, okay. Okay, I think it feels a little bit better. I should be able to reach it. Ow! Crap! Now I gotta milk this one for the next month.
What this does show is that Gus is clearly annoyed by someone who plays up a medical condition for attention, which is reflected in how he treated Sabrina when she was bleeding profusely and almost died from a medical diagnosis that he was clearly negligent to. Not only this, but he kept up the sketch for weeks and continually deleted comments saying that this was a horrible and disgusting video given the context of his hiatus. So if he was receiving constant comments about how bad the idea was, and he is now repenting over his oversight of the context, why wouldn't he take down the sketch right away?
I totally recognize how fucking stupid it was to not comb through every possible thought that people might have of me during this time. I had so many people come out and say, like, this is Gus clearly trying to take a shot at Sabrina and continue to undermine her medical trauma. I just want to say, like, that was never ever my intention. Boy, don't you think I feel like a complete moron for not making that connection at all. It just was never ever my intention. I just felt foolish about that, and it got to a point where I thought that if I took it down, people would take that as an admission of guilt, like, I tried to do that, you got me. So I just ultimately left it up. I tried coming back.
Gus points out that there are many people talking about the situation who say they know Gus or Sabrina, and he specifies that all of these people have been people who he doesn't even know or who do not have any actual insight into their lives.
I had a number of people that said in videos that got hundreds of thousands of views, people claimed, yeah, I know Gus or I know Sabrina, so that's why I am qualified to speak on this situation. In all of the examples that I've seen from these people, I have not known a single one of these people, just creators claiming that they know me. Maybe they were people that I ran into at a live show and got a photo with, or maybe somebody that I met one time at an industry event or something.
Well, I don't know if you can say that about me. Gus also pointed out that Sabrina's video was right after the breakup, and she never talked about wanting to make this video, as if she needed to voice to him that she wanted to talk about her worst life experience to the person that made it even worse than it already was.
There was never any interest expressed in doing that during our time together, and unfortunately, right after the breakup, she took to doing a lot of the things that I think a lot of folks have seen post her video coming out.
Gus then admits that he believes that the purpose behind all of this was for Sabrina to find a way to ruin Gus's career because she was upset that they broke up.
I've been it's hard to think that of somebody that you spent 4 years of your life with. Mm-hmm. I don't want to think that of her, but it's very difficult for me, and the behavior that she's exhibited in the last 5 months, it's hard for me to draw any other conclusion other than the fact that she was extraordinarily upset with me and wanted to try to damage me in some regards. And again, I am not saying that to try to discredit her situation and what she went through.
I already touched on why this makes absolutely no sense earlier in the video, but this further proves the idea that Gus sees himself at the center of every situation. Whether it's Sabrina's pregnancy, her tweets, or this entire situation, Gus sees himself as the victim. He sees himself as the poor soul who had everything and seemed to lose it for no reason. In reality, he is an egocentric and compulsive liar who betrayed his friends, family, and professional connections because he put on a face for years and pretended to be someone who he is not. Sabrina's story is not and has never been drama.
I hate drama. I don't like doing that. I just have no interest in a public back and forth with anybody about this situation. Honestly, I'm fearful that even this appearance today will create more problems for myself. I just don't. Mm-hmm. In the last half of a year, it has been really difficult in a lot of areas, and it has absolutely eroded my mental health significantly. And I'm just trying to make stupid videos with my friends and my family.
He says that he has no interest in a public back and forth and pretends that he just wants this whole thing to be behind him, even though he joined the stream of a creator who has proven himself to be extremely biased and only has bad intentions towards Sabrina and her story. Gus continually paints himself as if he's going through hell for experiencing the results of his own actions.
I'm finally getting to a place in my personal life where a lot of this has hopefully subsided and been put to bed, but it's really difficult as I continue to kind of put myself out there on my own platforms and try to do work with others on their platforms. It's very hurtful, embarrassing, and difficult to see still a good number of people out there with a completely, in my eyes, just fully misrepresentative idea of what happened between me and this person, as well as their intentions. I'm just trying to come back here, and I'm so grateful that so much of my audience has stuck around and I think has kind of seen a lot of the things play out with myself and those around me, and it's kind of seen folks' true intentions. I don't know, man, that's not really a good soundbite. This is it. I kind of just went through hell for like half of a year, and I'm really just doing my best. I took a lot of time off and spent a lot of time with family. But
when Wubby looks at Sabrina's video, he is skeptical, he is mean, and he is downplaying her trauma throughout the whole entire thing. After he jerks off Gus Johnson for an hour, he calls him brave for speaking his truth.
I think it was really brave. I think that him coming on was brave. I hope you guys liked the content. Thank Thank you, Gus, for coming on and being brave.
Wubby is only doing this because he's an unlikable and ingenuine person who even admits himself that other creators don't like him and don't want to work with him. He knows that his audience will engage with this type of content, so he's giving Gus a platform to regain trust with a new audience in exchange for views and money. When Gus says that it's true that women are disproportionately ignored and treated poorly by doctors, Wubby laughs because it is something that him and his girlfriend have specifically fought against in his streams in the past when watching Sabrina's videos.
It is a very real thing for women to be disproportionately ignored and misdiagnosed and disrespected by many people in the medical field. That is a real reality. That is something that I had to be intimately involved with to see firsthand. I want to continue to step up and stand up for people and raise awareness in these areas. I'm embarrassed that I wasn't always the best person when it happened in my life.
Gus further discredits Sabrina by telling people not to believe everything they see online.
Thank you, Wubby, and thank you, folks. And please don't believe everything that you read on the internet, and be good to people in that order. I guess. I don't know.
All right, fair enough. Thank you, Gus. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
Finally, Gus gets off the stream and we get to hear the unbiased and holy opinion of this guy. Wubby says that he heard each side of the story and always said that he would listen to both sides before having a take on the situation.
Me listening to him speak there is the same as me watching Sabrina's video, right? I gave her all the time. I watched her whole video from start to end. And I sat here the day that came out and I told my chat one simple thing, I want to hear Gus's side. And now here we are. I've heard Gus's side. Now here's where the opinion piece comes in, right? You can disagree. You have a right to. But thank you for those who sat here and listened. I think Gus's ability to talk was taken from him by everyone trying to cancel him. And as he said, hear people out.
The problem with this is that he not only had a strong and aggressive take before he heard Gus's side of the story, but he also didn't hear Sabrina's response to all of these claims that Gus made. The only video that Sabrina has actually released involving this situation isn't even about Gus, and the purpose of it was not to defame or ruin his career. The video contained a few minutes about her relationship with Gus that were intentionally vague because it wasn't focused on that aspect of her life. Gus's side of the story was a direct interview with Wubby, and it was after Sabrina talked about her experience, which Gus continually called a complete lie while also saying that he doesn't want to discredit Sabrina.
This is now my opinion. I think it's hard. I think there's two sides. Relationships are extremely complicated and nuanced. And after talking to Gus, I think that all my suspicions were relatively true. I think everything he said sounded somewhat accurate, and it even falls in line with what she said. I think the relationship went south, and it was bad, and it didn't work out. Everyone's the asshole, and that's their business.
So Wubby and his fans' conclusion is that they are taking Gus's word as truth, and they just think Sabrina was straight up lying from the start in order to ruin Gus's career. Because it definitely made her life better, as you can tell by the constant messages sent her way to downplay the serious trauma she went through behind the scenes. Wubby then laughs at the idea of Sabrina joining the stream to talk to him and says that she would never join.
Bring Sabrina on. See, here's the thing. Sabrina would never come on. I don't think she would in a million years. I think a lot of poop was thrown on both sides, but there is one clear aftermath side here, and I do believe there is one clear maturity discrepancy. I think that if you look at everything that happened publicly, one person handled this extremely immaturely. She's in chat. Would she like to get on a call?
Why do you think that Sabrina would even consider joining if this is the way that you have treated her and this entire situation? Months before you even heard Gus's side of the story, you sent hate to Sabrina for no other reason than, man, cancel culture sucks. They did it again.
I know she's gonna watch this, but I don't know. I don't know how to be more fair to this person, and I feel like I am talking to her directly now, but I said it once, I'll say it again.
He says that he doesn't know how he could possibly be more fair to Sabrina. And I think Wubby is right here. He mentally is not capable of being more fair to her. When he sees a creator bigger than himself who he can suck and fuck for views, he completely loses the ability to sympathize with someone who is experiencing serious trauma because they don't provide value to him if they don't have a big enough audience. Wubby claims that he agrees with things that Sabrina and Gus have said on either side of their story, and he agrees that Gus did wrong things in the relationship, but the only things that Wubby agrees with Sabrina on and the only things that he claims Gus did wrong are things that Gus agrees with as well. There is not a single thing that Wubby pushes Gus on because he is so desperate to be liked by Gus that he allows himself to get face fucked by him for a full hour in order to become friends with Gus so he can make himself even more well known.
And I appreciate you answering that to the best of your ability. I know not an easy question, and I know that people, I've noticed while you were talking about this, there was some eggshell moments, and I know that people are going to cherry pick this regardless, so I appreciate you sharing your opinion either way.
He even tells Gus that his DMs are open at any time if he needs someone to talk to, which I can only assume means that him and Gus have not talked to each other about this situation since it began, because they are not friends.
And I think it was, you shared a lot of insight on what happened, and I think we all appreciate that. So thank you. And again, if you want to talk privately, my DMs are open, man. I'm here to listen. I'll hear you out. I know that doesn't sound like much, but I think in the situation that happened, right, that's kind of a lot at this point. So thanks again, bro. Seriously, it means a lot that you must be really fucking desperate if you're on my stream. Let's be real.
This is a business transaction between two sad people who know they can benefit off of each other. Now, before I end this video, I want to echo what I said during the beginning of this video. This is not to have a debate with Wubby, because I know he'll probably fully react to this and have it uploaded and monetized on his YouTube channel in less than 24 hours. This isn't drama. This isn't content. This is a real life that is being torn apart because someone wanted to talk about a near-death experience that they had. I'm here to protect my friend, and I don't want to sit by as defenders of Gus begin to call her an abuser and ignore the very real abuse and neglect that happened in this relationship.